Hi, I opened your page and I see that it is not working. So when I enter something and click, nothing happens. No matter which one I'm doing, nothing's happening. So the first thing that I do is I want to see if there's some sort of error that the browser will tell me about. So I'm going to use the inspect element option. So I'm just going to I'm in Chrome. This is a little bit different for every browser. So I can just right click and choose inspect, and that opens up my side over here that has lots of options. So if I look at that, there's lots and lots of options, but the one that I want is console. Now another way you can get to this is by clicking F12. And notice what this does for us. This opens up and it shows us there's an error. In fact, it shows us 3. I'm going to work on the first one and see how I can fix that. So it says that in the file functions.js on line 32, there is an error. So if I go there and I look at this, it tells me a little bit about it. It says it's an unexpected string. And this turns out to be one of our common errors. So here we have quotes plus a variable plus quotes, so a string, plus a variable, and then here's another string. What are we missing? We're missing the plus right here. This is an easy thing to miss because we have so many different things that we're doing. So we simply add that plus here and save it. And then let's go ahead and refresh and see what happens. Oh, it's still saying that there's an error on line 43. And this one's saying unexpected end of input. So if we go down to 43, here it is ending, and it says, oh, that's the end of the file, and I don't expect it to end. What it's looking for here, although it doesn't tell you, here's an opening quote for this particular function, and what's missing is a closing quote for that particular function. So let's go ahead and add that and see if that works. And then it goes on. So notice this is the process for debugging, is to look through this and find these errors. Now you'll come across some errors that don't show up here. So these ones, just when they do, you're happy because they help you find it. But if they don't, then you have to use other means of detecting what the errors are. But also note that a single error can make everything stop working. So one of the things you said was that your JavaScript was working at one point and then it stopped working. So that's very common, that you can have an error and it stops working, and everything stops working. Now the error is saying it's on line 6 of this same functions.js file, and it's specifically saying that it cannot set the property inner HTML of a null value. So what this is saying is I'm looking here to set inner HTML of this element, but right now this is showing up as null. So it's a null, and I can't do null.innerHTML. So that's what that error is saying. And by the way, this error pops up quite a bit, so it's nice to be familiar with this particular one. So let's go look in the HTML file and see if we can find an element with ID set to hello. And here I just did a find, and so I'm going to look for that hello, and sure enough, there's a heading 2 with ID equal to hello. So I wonder why this problem then exists. So let's look next at what else might cause this, since that ID is there. And I notice that if I go up into this head section, I see where that JS file is being added. And it's up here in the head section. And pages are loaded from top to bottom. So as it loads, it gets to this. It says, okay, load this JS file. And sure enough, it comes in here. And this particular code is not in any function. So it's straight JavaScript, and it will simply run that code. So it says go find get element by ID hello. So go find that element with ID set to hello. Well, it turns out it's going to look for it right now, and it hasn't loaded yet because, in fact, all that has been loaded so far is this much. And within that much, there is no element with ID set to hello. So the problem then is in order of operations. It stops here, it doesn't stop, it continues, but it moves to functions.js, executes this code, and can't find that element because it hasn't loaded yet. So in this case, when we have JavaScript code that will run as soon as the file is loaded, that would be any JavaScript code that's outside of a function will run when that is first loaded. Then we need to make sure that we're not referring to any elements, or we need to say, hey, don't load it there. Let's go ahead and let the entire page load, and then we can load it down here at the bottom. And I'm going to add it here just right before the body and put the script there. Now this way what will happen is it will start at the top and it will load, 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 load. It will load all the way down until it gets to here, and then it will load the JavaScript function and it will go look for that element, and sure enough, that element has loaded, so it will be able to find it. So let's try that. All right, that got rid of that error. So right now when we first load, we don't have any errors. So we want to move to trying out our code. Notice that that did work. Hello there, undefined. Why did we get an undefined? We got undefined because we're using a variable name that hasn't been given a value. So if we want to give it a value, we have to uncomment this. We can save that and load it again. Now it will let us enter a value, and it does the alert, but it also does this part. So you can put in as much as you want. We don't need the alert part, so we can comment that out and just leave the get the username. And then that will make it work for us. And then let's see if the other parts work. So Bozo, create a message, there it is. So notice those things that were working before for you, they're working for you now once we got rid of those errors. So I hope that helps.